So, so you've got a few seconds. It will seem like in the moment, you will have a hard time gauging time. But when the baby is born, your first priority is to dry the baby off because the baby is wet. And if you've ever come out of a swimming pool all soaking wet, you know that the air makes you cold. So dry the baby with whatever you have. I don't care if it's your nice coat, whatever you've got, okay? If you've got something else, then put something else warm on the baby, because putting a wet thing on the baby isn't very helpful, right? So you've dried off the baby, baby's on mama. The drying stimulates the baby. So that's what you want to do, is stimulate the baby. Babies don't necessarily come out howling. They take a little minute, just like the mama took a minute to breathe out the birth before she could breathe in the baby. The baby's got to do the same thing. It was a big experience. And the baby's still attached to the cord, so it has a backup. It's getting some oxygenated blood through the cord. So you're okay for a minute. Not a whole minute, about 30 seconds, okay? Which you won't be able to gauge very well. But give the mama a chance to try to get her baby to come around by rubbing the back. It's one of the best things you can do. Now, it's been a few seconds and you don't see that that baby's breathing. It might be breathing, so you won't know till you ask the mom if you can take a look. You can't see any chest movement, can't see any breathing. Okay, so then you could ask the mom if you can take the baby for just a second. Now, baby's still attached, you're not taking it far, okay? You're just taking the baby out of the mother's arms, and you're gonna hold the baby like this. This is called drainage posture. You see, it's more vertical than horizontal. I'm holding the chin so that the head is in what we call sniffing position. In other words, it's vertical. If the baby was lying on his back, nose would be pointing at the ceiling, okay? But it's not, it's lying here. But you just don't want the baby to be like this or like this, because either one of those is gonna close off the airway. Just want the baby in a neutral position. Down, take your fingers, go from the base of the spine up to the neck, because that stimulates a breathing reflex, okay? You can flip the baby gently over. Is that baby breathing yet? Oh dear, baby's not breathing yet. Take a look and see whether you see right here, centrally pink. Is that baby pink right here, around the mouth, nose, chest? Baby's gonna still have blue hands. The hands and feet are gonna be blue. They just always are. So you can do that. Don't spend too much time at this. Spend several seconds, okay? But if the baby is not breathing and it's 1 minute after the birth, you're going to have to help the baby breathe. The reason the baby is probably having a hard time breathing, let's assume it's pretty close to a full-term baby, at least 36 weeks. And you remembered to ask the mom that, right? How far along are you? When was the baby due? Very first thing you're gonna ask her, okay? But let's assume the baby's at least, say, 36 weeks. Then really what that baby needs is help inflating the lungs, because the lungs are filled with fluid. The little sacs in the lungs are filled with fluid before the baby is born. And the little blood vessels that go from the heart to the lungs are only 8% open, because the baby wasn't using its lungs. So now the baby needs to open up those blood vessels really wide, and the air that they're taking in needs to come in with enough pressure to push the remaining fluid out into those blood vessels. Now air has replaced the fluid in the lungs, okay? That's what's gonna happen. Some babies, for one reason or another, just can't summon up the air pressure to inflate their lungs. It's the hardest breath they'll ever take. So this baby didn't decide to do that for one reason or another, okay? Mother is holding the baby, or if the mother is sitting down and the baby is on the floor in front of the mother, still attached to the cord. So you can't take this baby very far. Keep the baby warm, wrap it carefully, and you're gonna have to put air into that baby. Now, a mother could do this by herself if she has the presence of mind, okay? But she may not, so you will have to do it. Wipe the baby's face, and do not think about where that baby just came through, because you're gonna go like this. Unless you always carry a handy-dandy infant-sized mask, which I do, but if you don't, then you're gonna wipe the baby's face, and you're gonna put your mouth over the baby's nose and mouth. Make sure the mouth is open, even if you have to stick your little finger in there and pry it open. And you're gonna make a seal with your mouth around the baby's nose and mouth. Now, do you see how a mother could do this? She could just go like that for her baby. And you're gonna breathe into this baby the breath of life. And here's, the baby's lungs are that big. See that? See that? That's how big the baby's lungs are. So how much breath are you gonna put in? Not much. What you've got in your cheeks. Everybody do this. Now, when you're first inflating the baby's lungs, you want to think of it like you're blowing a bubble through a bubble wand. So you want a little more pressure for a little more time, but if you just go, you're just going to blow that out, right? So you want to go, and it's going to be breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3, because you have to give the baby time to exhale the air you just put in. So you're gonna go, breathe, 2, 3, breathe, 2, 3. Do you see? It's not that hard, but you're only doing this much. Okay, now you're gonna do 5 of those before you check again. So it's really hard to keep your wits about you in this situation. I know this because the first birth I ever saw that was not my own baby being born, I was supposed to be the doula. And I ended up with this, catching this baby in front of this woman's refrigerator. And the dad actually caught the baby and handed her off to me. And the mom was on hands and knees in complete shock, couldn't pay any attention to her baby. And the dad hands me the baby and jumps around going, we had a baby, we had a baby, we had a baby. And I'm like, does anybody care that she's not breathing? You know? And I kept going, are you breathing? Oh, you're not breathing. Please breathe. So I know, baby was fine, by the way. Paramedics were pretty close behind me. So I know that, that babies really mostly just need to get their lungs inflated. And it takes 5. The baby may be spluttering and batting you away and whatever, but do 5. Just do 5, okay? Then check the baby again. See if you're seeing his chest rise. The nice thing about having put the baby in this position, as I know from experience, is that you can feel the baby's heart against your hand. And the other thing you want to know, I mean, mainly is the baby has to breathe, but you also want to know what the heart rate is doing, okay? So if the heart rate is faster than yours, which is pretty fast at this moment, by the way, it should be more like this. Thump, 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 thump. Right? It shouldn't be like this. Thump, thump. Okay? It should be minimum once every second, but it should actually be about twice that fast. Okay? So try to get some gauge. If you've got the baby like this and you're giving mouth to mouth, you can feel at the umbilical cord, right where the umbilical cord joins the body, you can feel the pulse there. Okay? So you can get a gauge for how that's going. If the pulse is over 100 beats per minute, and you're going to try it for 6 seconds. Hopefully you always wear a watch. So you'll have your watch and you'll take it for 6 seconds. This is after you've done 5 breaths. You're going to take the baby's pulse for 6 seconds and you're going to multiply by 10 because you've got that much brain power. And then if the baby's pulse is less than 100 beats per minute, then you're going to just, well, you're going to keep on going until this baby breathes, okay? You're just going to check every 5 breaths. You're going to check and see what the pulse is. You should hear, as soon as you've inflated the baby's lungs, virtually always, the pulse will just come, maybe it was pump, bump, 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 but as soon as you put the air in, it's going to go bump, 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 okay? Because usually you get the air in, the baby's pulse will come out. So that is simple neonatal resuscitation. Don't cut the cord. You need that backup. You don't know how long it's going to last. Might only be a few minutes before the placenta comes out, at which point you're not getting a lot out of it. But you probably have a good 5 minutes of supplemental oxygenated air coming into that baby before, you know, before they're really hard up. So that's basically what you're going to do. Okay?